Give me 10 minutes, I'm gonna explain to you how I built my entire real estate empire from scratch. I was working at a call center making $10 an hour before I got my real estate license. Fast forward 5 years, 10,000 plus hours later, I'm making over $500,000 every single year. I did it by doing something that's never been done before in the history of real estate. I did it as a brand new agent with no network, no sphere of influence, with no clue how to do real estate, yet I still made over $2 million in my first few years as a new realtor. I'm going to explain exactly how I did it so you can just copy me. The strategy that your brokers, your mentors, your team leaders all tell you to avoid like the plague is rentals. I created a rental system that involves 3 different ways to generate real estate leads. We have rental listings to work with landlords to get the actual rental listing. We're going to get 1 month's rent commission. If you double end both sides, then I developed a strategy behind MLS properties, working with the tenants so you can actually bring tenants to other listing agents' properties where you're typically going to get anywhere from $300 all the way up to a half a month's rent. Then the last strategy I built is the easiest money that you'll ever make as a licensed realtor. It's apartment complexes. Most people call it apartment locating, where you bring a tenant to an apartment complex. The apartment complex will then pay you a set fee. It could be a month's rent commission, $500, $1,000, you get the point. It is by far the easiest strategy that you can do in 2025 to make tens of thousands of dollars per month. If your goal is just to make 100 grand in real estate, you're gonna wanna tune into this video. I'm gonna explain step by step how to do these 3 strategies to make well over 100 grand, or if you're like me, $500,000 a year in this current housing market.
Show me the money!
By the way, if you guys didn't know, my name's Andy Coleman. I'm a 4-time icon agent with EXP Realty. I've closed over 900 real estate transactions. I've made over $2 million in commission. I actually am the leading rental expert in the entire world right now. There is not a human alive that has done more rental deals than me in a calendar year. I have set the Guinness Book of World Records for it, which I am currently about to apply for. So let me rewind a little bit and start from the very beginning. In the first year that I did real estate, all my brokers, my mentors, my team leaders, they were telling me the exact same thing. Rentals are a waste of time. Do not bother with them. You're not going to make any kind of money whatsoever. You're just going to be spinning your wheels when you could be working with the buyers and sellers that pay the big commissions. I thought about this and was like, yeah, they're probably right. I would rather make $10,000 or $15,000 in one lump sum instead of doing a bunch of deals to make a couple thousand per deal. How wrong was I? In my first 2 months of real estate, I closed 0 deals. I was spending money on MLS fees, brokerage fees, marketing fees, gas money, you name it. I was just blowing through my savings. I got to the point where I had to debate if I wanted to get out of real estate or not. So if you're struggling as an agent right now thinking that you might have to get a 9-to-5 job, you're not alone. I was there. But I figured out a strategy to work with renters that made me $50,000 a month consistently for years. Let me tell you how I did this. After those first 2 months, those really dark times, I said, why did everybody tell me not to work with the renters? It didn't make any kind of logical sense to me after trying to work with the buyers and sellers. I created a strategy which I call my MLS strategy. It's one of the systems that I talked about before for the 3 strategies, right? The rental listings, MLS strategy, and apartment complexes. For my MLS strategy, how it begins, you have to get permission from a listing agent to advertise another agent's property. Once you advertise this rental listing, you're gonna have leads flooding in. You can do various different platforms or sources to post these listings. I always recommend doing a platform like Facebook Marketplace. Why? Because it's 100% free. You're not gonna have to spend a dime on marketing at all, meaning $0 in ad spend. You can generate 50, 100, or if you're like me, 200 leads per day for $0. Any single agent in the entire country can do this strategy. Like I said, all you have to do is get permission from a listing agent to advertise their rental listing. The goal here is to try to bring them a tenant. Now, if you get a tenant for that property, typically you're gonna get paid about half a month's rent commission in very varying states. Some states are not gonna pay you half a month's rent. Some states are only gonna pay you $200, right? Let me give you an example why you can make a ton of money even if you're only getting paid $200. So do the math on this. If you make $200 per rental deal that the listing agent, landlord actually pays you, you're gonna charge a $300 to $400 transaction fee to the tenant that you're working with. Trust me, if you do this correctly, they're gonna shake your hand with a giant smile on their face afterwards, thanking you for your help. Now, if you add up that $300 or $400 transaction fee to the $200 that the landlord gave you, and remember, this is worst case scenario here. Most states will pay more than this. I'm just doing the lowest common denominator here to give you guys hope that even if you're in one of these states, you can still make a lot of money doing this rental strategy. $200 plus $300, we'll go on the low side here. That is $500 per rental deal. Now, if you do this correctly, it's only gonna take you 2 hours per closed deal. Do the math on that. If you make $500 for 2 hours of work, you're making $250 an hour. If you're in a state like I am in South Florida, I make half a month's rent commission. I get about $2,000 when it's all said and done. So I'm making $1,000 in commission. So if you're in a state like that, you can see how I can easily make $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 per month if I do 20 or more rentals. That's not even the best part because I also turn renters into buyers. But first, let's break down what that $500 will actually mean for you. If you do 10 rental deals in a month, which is easy, my record month, I did 30 rental deals alone as a solo agent with no TC, no VA, no transaction coordinator. It was 100% by myself. Think about this, 10 rental deals, $500 commission. That's $5,000. Worst case scenario. Then, if you're doing 10 rentals, you're gonna close one renter that will turn into a buyer every single month like clockwork. Because in America right now, we have a ratio of 10 renters to 1 buyer. That's the stats. I've taught over 300 agents how to do this in my program. I call it Richard Rentals. So if anybody wants to learn more, check the link in the description below. That's not what this video is about though. All these agents that I've taught, when they're doing 10 deals a month, they're also closing at least 1 buyer. Right? They're turning 1 renter into a buyer. I don't care where you are in the United States, you're making about $10,000 minimum for that sale. Now let's add the $10,000 for the renter that you turn into a buyer. Then let's add the $5,000 in rental commission. That's 15 grand per month. Do the math on that. In 12 months, because this is consistent, you're gonna make $180,000 in income as a brand new agent in today's housing market in 2025. If you thought this was the worst housing market in the history of real estate, yes, it is. If you're focusing on buyers and sellers, if you're focusing on the renters, this is by far the easiest market that we've ever had. There was only 4.5 million house sales last year, but there was 45 million rentals, meaning 90% of the market is renting homes. If you're a real estate agent, why would you ever work with the buyers and sellers when you can work with the renters? There is plenty of deals to go around if you do this strategy. So to get back to my MLS strategy, now that you know it's very profitable for you to do it, if you then get permission to advertise this rental listing, put it on a site like Facebook Marketplace. Leads will reach out to you asking it to see that property, to set up a showing. All you have to do is respond to them and convince them to work with you, okay? I don't have the time to show you how this works. Use your imagination. From there, you have to now convert that lead into a client of yours that wants to actually work with you. The goal here is to get them set up in your MLS. Getting that initial property rented out is awesome, but if you get 20 leads for one property, you could only get one of them into that place. So now if you show them backup options, you have a significantly higher chance of closing that deal. Once you convert the lead into a client, you have to figure out how to make them loyal to you so they don't go to other agents. Then you're gonna have to figure out how to get your time down to only 2 hours per deal. And I only do about 0 to 3 showings per property. So doing a strategy like a pre-offer system where you're basically putting in the Rentspree application, which is a credit background eviction report, rental application, proof of income, which can be 3 bank statements, driver's license, pay stub, things like that. If you put this in before you go and show the property, make sure that the listing agent and landlord accepts them first. You're gonna waste no time at all. That's how I do 0 showings. But be very careful when you're doing this. If you're a new agent or if you haven't done many rentals, you're gonna scare tenants off. So you have to be very, very experienced when you do this kind of a strategy. Regardless of that, once you start doing the showings or putting the offers in, now you just sit back and wait. Think about it. side. Once you've done a full package, right? The credit background, eviction report, rent application, proof of income, driver's license, all of that good stuff, then the listing agent gets to talk it over with the owner to find out if they're going to accept you or not. If they accept you, what more do you have to do? There's almost nothing. All the tenant has to do now is put 1 month down as an escrow deposit, which you're going to use towards your commission. Then just wait until the final walkthrough. During the final walkthrough, you're basically going to meet the tenant at the property, make sure the house is in the same condition it was when you did the initial showing, then exchange last month's rent and the security deposit for the keys. At that moment, you're going to get your half a month's rent commission, your $500, whatever the case may be. All you have to do is rinse and repeat. That's my entire MLS rental strategy. Now, of course, that was a very, very brief description of what to do. I teach the full in-depth breakdown, which is hours and hours and hours of trainings, which will break down everything in depth. So you're actually going to be able to close 10 plus every single month. But if you want to try this on your own, I encourage it because you will at least close a deal a month, which is better than going after buyers and sellers closing 0. Now, remember what I said before, you're going to turn a renter into a buyer every single month. So as you're working with all of these new renters, you're going to try to convince at least one of them per month to buy a home instead of rent. There's a lot of ways to do this, so here's where you can get creative, or I teach this to my agents in my program. Okay, the next strategy is my apartment locator strategy. This is very similar to the MLS strategy, except there's a few slight differences. You're gonna have to pay attention to this because there's two main methods to generate these kind of leads. One, you can take pictures of these apartment complexes, varying the models, of course. You could put them on a platform like Facebook Marketplace, just like the MLS strategy. Or you can go to the apartment complex, obviously with permission. Doing this, you're gonna have tenants reach out to you about these apartment complexes. You should just build a spreadsheet of all the complexes that pay realtors, qualifications, all that good stuff. Then go and show the properties that these leads are interested in. All you have to do is take the tenant to the apartment complex. The leasing manager is gonna do the rest of the work. You get to sit back, relax, and collect your commission check from there. All you have to do is provide your W-9 and your invoice, and you're good to go. Yes, this strategy does take a little bit more time to get paid. So if money is a real issue, you're gonna wanna focus more on the MLS strategy first because you get paid, remember, when you do the final walkthrough, which is typically gonna be in 2, 3, 4 weeks from when you meet that lead. The average renter takes about 2 or 3 weeks to rent a home from the time they reach out to an agent. Again, that was a very, very brief rundown of my apartment complex strategy. I go very in depth with my program, Richard Rentals. For my third strategy, this is how to get rental listings. So you're gonna be switching it up a little bit from here, but it's gonna kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Think about it. If you get a rental listing, what else are you gonna get when you post that listing? You're gonna get tenant leads. That's the magic behind doing this rental listing strategy. And I'll tell you right now, it is by far the most overlooked strategy, even more than my MLS or apartment complex strategy. Because now, once you get the full month's rent commission for that rental listing, you're also gonna get leads to fill other tenants into other properties to collect the $300 or $500 or half a month's rent commission, what have you. Now, to get a rental listing, you're gonna have to do a few different strategies that you could choose between. The first one is for rent by owner. We like to call it FRBO. These FRBOs are basically similar to for sale by owner, except nobody is calling them. That's right. If you call a for sale by owner, you're probably one of 70 agents that have called that day. For rent by owners are getting no love whatsoever. Nobody is calling them. So if you do call one, you can convince them of a few different methods on how you're actually gonna make this work. I break all of this down in my program. I'm gonna give you an example right now. One of the obvious methods is to ask for a full month rent commission. This way you can represent the tenant, you can represent the landlord, or you can have a tenant's agent bring the tenant. This way they would get half month's rent, or you can pay them however much you would like. You would get half a month's rent or take however much you would like. Again, you're gonna charge a transaction fee for, frankly, whatever you want. You can charge $100, $200, $300, $400. Doesn't really matter if you do it the right way. Doing this, you can also generate tenant leads, like I said before. While you generate those tenant leads from posting these properties on the MLS, Facebook Marketplace, and all the other sites out there, now you can use the MLS strategy and apartment complex strategy to make more commissions, close more deals, make more money. That's how this works, and that's how this all flows together. together in a seamless system. Now, there are other ways to get rental listing leads by working with landlords. You can do expired, you can do canceled, you can do withdrawals. There's a lot of different methods to doing this, which I break down in my program. Check the link in the description below if you guys want to learn more info. Now, I just gave you 3 solid strategies all in my rental niche system. These are all ways to generate real estate leads. That's the #1 way as a real estate agent that you're gonna close deals. Think about it. If you don't have leads coming in every single day, how on earth are you gonna close deals? It's virtually impossible. This is gonna build a network that you've never experienced before because we're dealing with volume. You're generating 10, 20, 50, 100, 200 leads per day. We're talking thousands per month. Do you know how fast your network grows? If you're generating 2,000 or 3,000 leads per month, it grows massively. That's how I have well over 100,000 leads in my database now. Plus, I have a VIP list of over 1,800 clients that I've actually physically worked with, because remember, I've closed over 900 deals. Their spouses, friends, partners, things like that. Then you're gonna get referrals coming out of your ears. I literally get a referral almost every other day at this point. Doing this is not the best way to make money doing rentals. I have something even better. You know when you're gonna get really rich off of rentals? When you can convert 30% of your closed renters into buyers. 50% of Americans eventually buy a house at some point in their life. In the next 2 or 3 years, the real estate market is gonna switch. It's gonna turn back to a buyer's market. Now, think about this. If you can convert 30% of your closed renters into buyers in the next couple years, you'll never have to do another rental deal ever again. If you can close 300 rentals in the next 2 years, which is easy. Remember, I'm closing about 250 per year alone. You can do 300 in the next few years. Do the math on that. 30% of 300, that is 90 house sales, 90 buyers that you're gonna get every single year. I don't care where you are in the country. That is about $1 million in commission that you're gonna make within a few short years. So if you think that you're only making $200 commission per rental deal, guess again. I showed you a path where you can make $180,000 from that. Or if you're in a market like mine, you can make $500,000 per year. Then you can scale that within a few short years. Every single one of you can make $1 million or more within the next couple years if you follow my rental system. So let's recap the 3 strategies. You can work with MLS properties by getting permission to advertise another rental listing on a site like Facebook Marketplace, or you can work with apartment complexes by advertising those on also Facebook Marketplace, or creating a reel to put it on Instagram with permission, of course. Then you can work with landlords getting rental listings. Then you can convert 1 renter into a buyer every single month because we're dealing with volume. Then after that, you can convert 30% of your closed renters into buyers. That is my entire rental system in a nutshell. If anybody wants to learn more, go to the link in the description below. It's www.richardrantals.com. You could always book a call if you have any questions for me. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And guys, I put a lot of time and effort into making these videos. I would really appreciate if you share this with another struggling realtor. Just drop a like, drop a comment below, and I'll catch everybody in the next one.